Sack Marionette, doing business as bargain counter argument, and I'm a middle-aged lady counting down to Valentine's Day, and today it is February 6th, which is Friday, which is Flip Through Friday, and this is just a little heart-shaped vase with some faux flowers in it that I picked up at Marshall's last year, and I just wanted it on the background for a little bit of visual interest while I introduce today's object, which is a magazine from 1973, and it is published by the good people of Harlequin. They had a magazine from, I know it started in 1973, but I'm not sure when it ended. I got a lot of 5 random issues from eBay. Yeah, reasonably priced. I think it was $18 plus shipping and handling, so it ended up being a little over 25 maybe with shipping, handling, and tax. Anyway, this is volume 1, number 5, 75 cents. And I don't know if this was a monthly, a bi-monthly, or what. So I don't know. It doesn't have a date other than a copyright 1973. So I don't know if this was May or October or what. But as you can see, Harlequin magazine has its features. Mary Burchell, I'm not sure, tells her own story. She was a prolific writer for Mills and Boon, and of course Harlequin was the North American republisher of Mills and Boon books, and she has an interesting story to tell. And My Dearest Friend by Leslie Wilson, that's a short story. The Castle of Your Dreams, a romantic holiday, that's a travel feature, as is Harlequin Visits the Magic City of Paris. And then we have a complete novel, Dear Dragon, by Sarah Seal. So I've actually already read this magazine cover to cover, and it was a really enjoyable experience. Even my mom, who doesn't like category romance or romance in general, she was flipping through it and said, oh, this is kind of cool. So it's just a nice piece of publishing ephemera. So here we have the table of contents on this side, and on this side we have the start of the short story, My Dearest Friend. And I will get back to that later. I'm going to flip through the magazine first and then talk about the stories I read, because some people might be interested in the magazine but not the actual content of the novel or the short story. So here we have the table of contents. I'm trying to make sure that I can get as much of this on the screen at once as possible because it is slightly larger than 8.5 by 11. So here's the short story on page 2. What's this? The full novel, Dear Dragon by Sarah Seal. It starts on page 8. And then the Mary Burchell story, Burchell. This will floor you. It's a home decorating thing. The Castle of Your Dreams again, travel. That's there. That's a special feature as opposed to travel feature. And then the regular features. Oh, I didn't read Looking at Life, the kindly words of comfort, something all of us want in times of sorrow and something all of us should be prepared to give. I forgot to read that. Anyway, so here we have letters to the editor. And a lot of this is volume 1. So a lot of this is like, I like this magazine, and can you start a pen pal service? A lot of people were interested in pen pals, like from around the world. A lot of people who read Harlequin romances, a lot of the appeal was the aspect of getting to kind of peek into places that people had never been to or had only been to superficially and or wanted to revisit in fiction, and also getting, like, if you're reading a romance that's set in Australia and you're an American, you get a kind of sense of some of the day-to-day life of some people in Australia. So you might want to kind of extend that to the real world by getting a pen pal. I don't know if that ever got off the ground. And they actually did share somebody's address because she was looking for the back catalog of Harlequin, and she was looking to fill in her collection. So she's like, if anybody has anything, and the editor put in her address. So, and then somebody went to Scotland. And then there are just like miscellaneous questions, like wanting to know if there's going to be a history of Harlequin published, or one of them wants to know if Violet Winspear is Welsh. She's not, she's English. And there's a list of Sarah Seal's other books, because of course she wrote the novel that's featured here. There's a cookery consultant. This Dear Susan is framed as a letter from a young American woman who's married and moved to Canada. So she's talking about what it's like living in a different country. There's another interesting thing in one of these letters. This one is saying that she likes the news magazine, but also she wants a pen pal section. And she says she wanted Harlequin to develop some of their books around Americans. It would be a few years before they did it, and it was because another publishing house started publishing more American writers and American set romances, and they kind of got their clock cleaned in the market. Harlequin did, so they started doing more American stuff, but it was a few years later. Being an American and proud of it, I want other countries to know that we are, in majority, people like they are and that they enjoy the same things. So that's like a little bit of American pride and just wanting to bolster the reputation of America and Americans throughout the world. So that's, yeah, enough said. And then there's a list of some books by Mary Burchell because she wrote the article. Okay, and here is the artwork for the story, Dear Dragon, by Sarah Seal, which is set in Cornwall. And there's the dude, there's the female main character, there's the house, which doesn't look at all like I pictured it from reading the story, and the dogs and a metaphorical dragon. I'll talk about it more in a bit. And here's Mary Burchell's story. I'll talk more about that later. And then most of this magazine is, of course, going to be a full-length novel. Oh, here, somebody did the Harlequin crossword in ink. Show off. That wasn't me. It was decades ago, probably. And then the only ads in here are for the Harlequin reader services, like for subscriptions that you can get to Harlequin, because they ran and still run on a subscription service as well as selling at newsstands and bookstores. And now grocery stores, Walmart, etc. Here's the artwork for My Dearest Friend, which was this image here. Is simply this image in black and white and reversed. Let's see if I can do a Mad Magazine fold-out type thing so you can see that they are in fact the same picture. Okay, there's the feature on Paris. We have a few black and white shots and a few color shots. These seem to have been done by a photography service. I don't know if they were stock footage or just an agency they contracted. Oh, that looks so nice. I think I want to go there. I've been to Paris, but I haven't been to that. And the feature on Paris, it tells you different attractions you can go to. And one of the things that gets prominent mention, I think is the first one they mentioned, is the bookstore Shakespeare and Company. Okay, this is the one I forgot to read, so I'll have to go back and take a look at it. And this is more story. And then here's the, I love this. This is the home decoration feature. And what they're saying you should do is just kind of do built-ins by quote unquote raising your floor. And they say, oh, just get some chipboard and some carpeting. And it's very 70s coded. I love it because the carpet continues onto this. So that's what makes it like kind of one with the floor. And they're like, you can use these as tables, as couches, as beds, even depending on what you need them for. And then they tell you to use chipboard, which I think is just what we call plywood, and just build it up. And it's like there's nothing about reinforcing it with stronger wood or doing cross beams or anything like that. It's just throw some plywood down and you'll be fine. Oh, the 70s were a different time. And here's an ad for the Harlequin Reader Service. I think the first ad was just for Harlequin books in general. This is for the Harlequin Reader Service. And it's a shelfie. You can see that these shelves are all Harlequin books. And then, of course, here's the thing that you send in. The Harlequin Reader Service. Let's see, more story. This is just a quick little travel thing about how you can stay in castles along the Romantic Road in Germany, because that was, as they put it, when the landowners were starting to open them up for paying customers because they needed to make money somehow. And then at the bottom, they have a thing that tells you, for information on these tours, write directly to the German National Tourist Office, which is in Montreal. So a little bit of a plug there. More story coming next month. A romantic novel by Anne Wheel. And Eleanor Farnes tells her own story. Harlequin Holiday visits London, England. Okay, so I'm guessing this is bi-monthly if this is Harlequin Holiday, and this is volume 5. If this was October, Harlequin Holiday might be December, so maybe it was bi-monthly. And here you can also see this book by Sarah Seal is copyright 1959, which I didn't realize until I had read the first few paragraphs. And here's the thing is, if you've been watching my other videos, which, you know, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, because who knows if they're interesting to you, you know that sometimes when I read older romances, like especially from like the late 70s, early 80s, the male-female relationships are just not great. I don't like them. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times I just don't like them. And I did not have high hopes for this story until I started it. And I realized that for something that was written in 1959, or at least published in 1959, it has really, I liked the relationships in it. I felt like the thing that tripped me up was that there was a huge age gap. He was 37 and she was 19. And I will say she was a mature 19-year-old, even though she'd had a sheltered upbringing. And she comes into this situation, and this is a short work, but there are a lot of characters and a lot of things going on. And I think Sarah Seal did so much within the limitations of length that she had. And there's just so much family gossip, and I just really, really liked it a lot. I had a good time with it. And other than the age gap, I felt like the relationships weren't nearly as problematic as I was thinking they would be. And I just really enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. So that was good. Again, the house doesn't look anything like I pictured it. And one of the things about her sheltered upbringing, I think Sarah Seal just has a way with words. And for example, here we have, she was, the female main character, Alice, was raised by her Aunt Brown. And Alice remembers her aunt with nostalgia, the vague, kindly spinster who had brought her up and died, leaving her unprovided for, both as regards money and any aptitude for earning a living. Poor Aunt Brown, with her old-fashioned ideas about young girls and her touching belief that sooner or later a husband would resolve all difficulties, even though she herself had been passed by. So I think even though she had this sheltered upbringing, Alice is a little skeptical of what Aunt Brown had to say, even though she loved her a lot. Anyway, I just like that turn of phrase, and that kind of thing happens throughout the work, and I really enjoyed it. Let's see if I can find Mary Burchell or Burchell. What happened was Mary Burchell started writing for Mills and Boon in the 1930s, and she and her sister were opera fans. They loved opera. They couldn't sing themselves, but they loved opera. And they actually, at one point, saved a lot of money so that they could go to New York from England to see an opera singer who never came to Europe. So this was a big adventure for them, and they had a great time, and they actually got to meet the singer, and she made sure that they had tickets to all her concerts. It was quite a lovely story. And then shortly after that, Mary started writing and making a pretty good money at it. And she and her sister still lived with their parents. Neither one of them were married, and indeed, they lived together all their lives, and neither one of them ever got married. But they took the money that Mary was making from the romances, and they'd go to Europe to go to opera festivals and performances and so on. And in the starting, I think it was in 1937 rather, and going until just a week before the war started for the UK, which was in the fall of 1939, she and her sister were helping Jewish people get out of places like Austria and Germany. And they were using the money she was making from romances to kind of fund this operation. So she says they'd go to the opera, they'd help people out, and then they'd go back to England. She'd write another book to make more money so that they could go to the opera and help people out. And they had some cooperation from opera artistic directors who would make sure that they knew what the performances were, so that when the border guards stopped them, they could be like, oh yes, we want to see so-and-so singing in this performance at this opera house. And so they kind of got a reputation with the border guards. Oh, it's those sisters who like opera. And so that was their alibi. I mean, they really did like opera, so they got to see some nice operas as well as help people out. So that's good. Now, as for the short story, the description of it is, okay, I'm struggling to read this for some reason. Jackie had many dates, but had still not found the man of her dreams. There was Pete, whom she had known all her life, but he was just a good friend, and she took him very much for granted. That makes it sound like it's going to be some weird, he's going to resent her for friend zoning him or whatever. It's not like that at all. It's a very sweet short story that was, I think, originally published in 1968. What's the copyright date on this thing? It was actually a very sweet story. And again, the relationship was not at all problematic. I enjoyed it. Let's see. 1968. So that had been, and it's just really charming. And with a few updates to technology, it would make a nice short story even today. So yeah, so I had a really good time with this magazine. And if you have a few bucks to throw around and you think this sounds like something you might like, it might be worth it to look for it on eBay. So I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed this magazine. And if you did, please like, comment, share, subscribe, or don't. I'm not the boss of you. And I hope you have a good day or night.